So if you scream for your life on a crowded commuter train, human psychology dictates that you are, like, statistically less likely to get help than if you were standing in a room with just one other person.
Right. It's totally counterintuitive.
It really is. And the human brain, for all of us evolutionary marvels, it routinely betrays us in these moments of sheer, unexpected terror. Looking specifically at 3 first-hand accounts of late-night near-miss encounters with strangers.
These are intense stories, too.
Oh, absolutely. And our mission today is to dissect the anatomy of these unsettling moments. Like, we want to look at how everyday routines, the spaces you navigate on pure autopilot, can suddenly require profound situational awareness just to survive.
Yeah, that autopilot is dangerous.
Definitely. I mean, let me ask you, the listener, have you ever had that sudden, totally inexplicable gut feeling that something in your environment is just wrong? Okay, let's unpack this, because reading through these accounts fundamentally changed how I view my own daily commute.
It completely forces a perspective shift. I mean, we all navigate the world under this assumed social contract, right?
Right.
We trust that the people waiting at the bus stop or walking down the grocery aisle, they're adhering to the same rules of reality that we are. And these 3 accounts are essentially case studies in what happens when someone abruptly tears up that contract.
Let's start with that specific disruption, because the illusion of safety is definitely most fragile in the places we feel the most anonymous.
Oh, 100%.
So, take our first source. This is a woman in her early 20s, lived in New York City her entire life. Navigating the MTA is just second nature to her. But she has this notoriously grueling 2-hour commute home.
2 hours.
Yeah, we are talking 2 trains, a 30-minute bus ride, and then on top of that, a dimly lit 5-block walk. So on one particular day, she steps onto the subway right before the doors close. She's standing near the doors, she has her headphones in, and she's just, zoning out.
Right. Which, think about how often you, the listener, do exactly that. You put your earbuds in on public transit to create a private bubble.
Like every single day.
Exactly. But mechanically speaking, you are actively disabling your primary early warning system. You're masking the auditory cues your brain literally relies on to map your environment.
Which makes her next moment so jarring. Because she faintly hears this homeless man saying something directed at her. And she assumes he's just talking to himself, which, happens all the time in the city.
Sure.
But he is staring dead at her. So she pulls out one earbud and asks what he said, and he immediately erupts, just aggressively insulting her, calling her a bitch.
Right.
Yeah, and her physical reaction is instantaneous. She describes her heart pounding out of her chest, and she remembers this vivid sensation of her ears and face feeling incredibly hot, like all the blood rushed straight to her skin.
That physical cascade is fascinating, actually. We often talk about adrenaline really casually, but what she's experiencing is this sympathetic nervous system completely hijacking her body.
Right.
Her brain's amygdala, which is the threat detection center, it bypassed her logical prefrontal cortex entirely.
Just skipped it.
Exactly. It sent a distress signal straight to her hypothalamus, which acts like a command center, and it immediately flooded her bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. That intense heat she felt in her face, that's vasodilation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her blood vessels rapidly widen to pump oxygen to her muscles, preparing her to either fight or sprint for her life. It is a totally involuntary biological takeover.
And the logic center of her brain is just desperately trying to catch up. Because what she does next is honestly so quietly tragic. She starts looking around, trying to make eye contact with the other passengers on the train.
Trying to get anyone to step in.
Exactly. She is silently begging for an intervention, but nobody will hold her gaze. Everyone just looks down or looks away. She's eventually forced to flee at the next stop, which, by the way, isn't even hers.
Man.
Yeah, she runs to the next train car, holding her breath until the man finally gets off 2 stops later. Reading this, it really reminded me of being trapped in a glass box. Like, you are entirely visible to a crowd, physically shoulder to shoulder with people, yet you're completely isolated by the bystander effect.
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism of that bystander effect. It's a phenomenon known as normalcy bias.
Okay, what is that exactly?
Well, think of normalcy bias like the predictive text on your smartphone. To save energy, your brain constantly autofills your reality with what it expects to happen. So on a commuter train, the brain expects a mundane, quiet ride.
Right, nobody expects a sudden screaming match.
Exactly. So when sudden, volatile hostility erupts, the brain's autocorrect basically fails. It throws an error code. For the other passengers to intervene, they have to break their own normalcy bias, accept that violence is occurring, and take on massive personal risk.
So they just shut down.
Yeah, their brains literally freeze. They choose the path of least cognitive resistance. They look away, which leaves the victim stranded in plain sight.
That autofill failing is terrifying. But, that happens in a crowd. What happens when there is literally no crowd to hide behind? Because we see a totally different kind of shattered normalcy in our next story.
Right, the geography quiz kid.
Yeah. So this involves a 19-year-old guy. He's 26 now, but he was living in a city in Southern Europe. Early October, Friday night. Parents are away for the weekend.
Which is like a classic setup for youthful independence. The stakes feel incredibly low here.
Super low. He's actually having this really great, wholesome night. He participated in his university's geography quiz, and his team of 6 actually took second place out of 10 teams.
Hey, good for them.
Right. So he takes the last subway home because his city doesn't have a 24-hour metro. He gets off at his stop, and he just has a quiet 10-minute walk through his neighborhood of small houses. The weather's getting crisp, house lights are mostly off. And he notes that he's intensely craving microwave noodles and his bed.
The contrast there is so vital to note. I mean, he is in a state of deep domestic comfort. His guard is completely down.
Then the environment just shatters. Out of nowhere, on this quiet, dark street, he hears the loudest, most blood-curdling scream of his life.
Just completely out of the blue.
Yes, and he specifically knows it was a man's scream, but the vocal pitch sounded as if the person was in excruciating pain, like his arm was actively being sawed off.
God. See, the brain struggles to process auditory trauma of that magnitude when it's just expecting, like, the hum of a refrigerator or the rustle of leaves. The environment dictates the stage, but the suddenness of the threat forces that exact same biological hijack the woman on the train experienced.
Right, the shift from craving microwave noodles to hearing a man scream like he's losing a limb is incredibly jarring. But the environment and the noise, those are just the initial triggers. The true primal fear in these accounts seems to stem from the highly anomalous, specific behaviors of the aggressors.
The things that just don't make sense.
Exactly. It's the visual oddities that our brains just can't categorize. Which brings us to the rest stop in North Carolina.
Oh, this account. This is a masterclass in recognizing predatory behavior masking as a mundane action.
Let's lay out the scenario for this one. So we have a 17-year-old traveling from Georgia with his dad. His dad is a truck driver trying to get some CDL experience. They arrive at a North Carolina rest stop at like 2 in the morning because their delivery isn't scheduled until 12 or 1 p.m. the following afternoon.
So they have hours to kill.
Right. So the dad goes to sleep in the cab of the truck. The teen, who says he's a night owl, goes into the large, entirely empty rest stop bathroom. And he brings his razor with him, planning to just take his time, line up his mustache in the mirror, assuming he has the whole place to himself.
Which is a completely rational assumption at 2 a.m. on a desolate highway.
Totally. But he walks to the left side of the restroom, and there is a man standing near a urinal. Now the teen is about 5'9", and he notes this man is much older, maybe late 30s, and huge, like at least 6'4".
Very intimidating.
Yeah, but the teen ignores him, goes into a stall, does his business, comes out, washes his hands. The tall man is still just standing there. It's only when the teen makes a move to leave that the man suddenly unzips and pretends to use the urinal.
See, that is the first major anomaly, the timing. The man initiates a fake private activity only when his audience is about to depart. It establishes an excuse for him to remain in the space.
And the teen feels the weird energy. So he moves over to the far right side of the restroom to use the mirror for his mustache, just putting distance between them. But then, 10 seconds later, the 6'4" man follows him over to that side. The teen pulls out his razor to start shaving. And suddenly, the man stops directly behind him and just looks shocked. Through the mirror, the teen watches the man walk to another urinal, pretend to unzip again, and just stare directly at the teen's reflection.
Shadowing a target's movements to maintain proximity and then followed by mirroring their gaze. That's a hunting tactic.
It is. The tension is thick. The teen nods at the mirror. The guy nods back. The man then walks into an empty stall. A moment later, the teen glances back, and the man hasn't closed the stall door.
Oh, man.
He is standing dead still in the dark corner of the stall, his eyes wide, just staring at the teen. After a minute of this, the man returns to a urinal for a third fake-out. The teen finally finishes and briskly walks out, tightly gripping his razor, knowing he's completely physically outmatched.
Yeah, standing dead still in the corner of a stall, that is an active concealment tactic. It completely removes any pretense of normal social behavior.
It really does. And we see this bizarre parallel in our second NYC story, actually. So, the woman from earlier is now a grad student. She's taking a late bus home after an 8:30 p.m. class. Ironically, she is listening to a horror podcast about a woman being followed.
Of course she is.
Right. So she gets off the bus onto a dark street and is debating whether to walk to a Popeyes for mac and cheese. She walks past the turnoff, changes her mind, and suddenly pivots around to head back to the restaurant.
That spontaneous pivot is the variable the stalker just couldn't predict.
Precisely. Because when she turns, she sees a man who had been on her bus. And the instant she changes direction, he freezes. He stops dead in his tracks and just stares at her with wide eyes.
Creepy.
Yeah, but she brushes it off, gets her food at Popeyes a minute later, and steps back outside. And he is standing right there, waiting at the entrance of the dark residential dead-end street she has to walk down.
So he anticipated her rap.
Yeah, and as she cautiously passes him, he matches her exact pace, walking right behind her shoulder, quietly whispering that he loves her.
Oh, God.
But here is the detail that completely upends the situation. He is wearing latex gloves.
Latex gloves.
Yes, this was post-COVID, but he had no face mask on, and it was a warm night. Just surgical latex gloves.
Okay, that specific detail changes the entire threat assessment.
See, I want to push back on this for a second, though. Playing devil's advocate here. Is it entirely possible that these individuals, the giant guy pretending to use the urinal, the man whispering on the street, that they aren't actively predatory? Could they just be severely socially awkward or perhaps mentally unwell, and their strange actions are just being magnified through the victim's lens of fear?
That is a vital question. Honestly, it is exactly the question victims ask themselves in the moment to rationalize the terror, to maintain their normalcy bias. But there is a mechanical difference between harmless eccentricity and calculated premeditation. The behaviors you just outlined are structural tells.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. Like, what makes it a tell?
Well, take the bathroom scenario. The man didn't just stand awkwardly. He actively manufactured a reason to share the space, feigning urination multiple times. And when the teen produced a razor, the man's physical shock implies his internal script was disrupted.
Right, he saw a weapon.
Exactly. He expected a defenseless target and suddenly faced an armed one. And the latex gloves in New York. Wearing latex gloves on a warm night without a mask suggests a highly specific intent. The desire to not leave fingerprints or DNA. Freezing when a target turns around, that is an involuntary predator response to being spotted.
Like the camouflage failing.
Exactly. But the true terror for you, the listener, hearing these accounts is the ambiguity of intent. Because these victims ultimately escaped, the trap never fully snapped shut. They're left with the paralyzing unanswered why.
Yeah.
What was the man in the bathroom preparing to do? Why the gloves? That ambiguity is a massive psychological weight.
Well, let's delve into those escapes and the lingering toll of that ambiguity. Returning to the 17-year-old at the rest stop, he walks out of the bathroom, knuckles white around his razor. He pulls out his phone and FaceTimes a friend. And using the friend as a digital witness, he bravely steps back into the bathroom to check, and the man is gone.
Which is leveraging technology as a deterrent. Predators generally seek isolated, unwitnessed opportunities.
But the relief is so short-lived. He steps out to the back of the rest area, toward a secondary parking lot meant for passenger vehicles. And there is only one car parked in the vast darkness. A red car. Its headlights are beaming.
Okay.
The exact microsecond the teen turns his head to look at the car, the headlights shut off, plunging the lot into darkness.
Terrifying.
Right. He has no concrete proof it was the man from the bathroom, but the timing just makes his blood run cold. And remarkably, he never tells his strict truck driver dad. He calculates that if he reports this near miss, his dad will strip him of his newfound independence until he turns 18.
Wow. So he is performing a complex risk assessment right there, weighing the abstract danger of the man against the guaranteed loss of his personal freedom.
The escape in the NYC story relies on a similar digital lifeline too. As the man with the gloves matches her pace and whispers, she immediately dials her brother. She knows it was an absolute miracle he picked up so late. She retreats from the dark street toward a well-lit liquor store, praying to spot a familiar face from her neighborhood.
But nobody's there.
No such luck. The stalker keeps creeping closer, continuously insisting in his eerie tone that he needs to help her go home.
Weaponizing social norms. Framing aggression as assistance makes it so much harder for bystanders to recognize an assault in progress.
Yeah, she is loudly yelling no, creating a scene, but he relentlessly pressures her to walk past him into the dark. Finally, the stalker seems to realize the scene is too public and backs into the liquor store. At that exact second, she turns the corner and sees her brother jogging toward her. She reflects later that the entire confrontation outside the store probably lasted 5 minutes, but it felt like hours.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that time distortion is a documented neurological phenomenon called tachypsychia.
Tachypsychia.
Yeah. When your amygdala perceives a mortal threat, it triggers the locus coeruleus to flood your brain with norepinephrine. Suddenly, your brain shifts from recording memories at a normal frame rate to acting like a high-speed camera.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it records every micro-expression, the texture of the latex gloves, the exact cadence of his whisper. Because you are physically encoding significantly more data per millisecond, your internal clock warps. 5 minutes subjectively stretches into an eternity.
That perfectly illustrates why these moments imprint so deeply. Which brings us to the aftermath of the European story, which, it might be the most haunting of the three.
Yeah, this one is rough.
So after hearing that agonizing scream, the teen hears a second scream, this time coming from the direction of his own house. He speed walks, constantly checking his blind spots. As he rounds the corner to his street, he spots a group of 4 or 5 men. They look unhoused, wearing dirty, ripped clothing, standing about 200 yards away. And the instant they lock eyes with him, the entire group starts sprinting toward him, shouting incomprehensible words.
Talk about the ultimate activation of the flight response.
He runs for his life. He gets to his front door, and literally like a trope in a horror film, his hands are shaking so badly he drops his keys on the concrete.
Oh, the worst possible timing.
Right. He scrambles, unlocks the door, throws himself inside, and locks it. He sits in the pitch black, hyperventilating, waiting for them to break the glass. He dials 112, the emergency number, explaining the sprint and the horrific scream. But the operator is just mired in bureaucracy. She repeatedly asks if he personally knows the men. Because he isn't physically bleeding, she completely dismisses the urgency, only promising to eventually send a patrol car to slowly roll through the neighborhood.
That is a classic institutional failure to recognize imminent psychological danger.
Totally. Well, he survives the night. The next day, Saturday, he only tells his best friend, hiding it from his parents so he doesn't ruin their trip. Saturday night, he's double-checking deadbolts. Around 4 a.m, he is watching a movie, just starting to let his guard down. Suddenly, there is a massive bang against the side of the house. He describes it as sounding exactly like someone hurling a heavy rock at the sidings.
So they followed him.
Maybe. He stays awake until dawn, paralyzed by fear. He sleeps until Sunday noon when his parents return, and a week later they install security cameras. And he never hears a single follow-up from the police.
Just leaving him with a profound lack of closure.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. I want to pitch an entirely alternate theory about those 4 or 5 men.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the teenager, operating entirely on adrenaline, assumed that because they sprinted toward him shouting, they were a coordinated group of attackers. But what if his threat assessment was completely inverted? What if those men were actually running away in absolute terror from whatever or whoever caused that excruciating scream? What if they were shouting warnings, not threats?
That is a chilling recontextualization, but logically sound. Fear notoriously corrupts our ability to judge intent. You see a group of men sprinting at you in the dark, and your mammalian brain immediately classifies them as predators. The cognitive bandwidth required to consider that they might be fellow prey, fleeing a larger predator, it simply isn't available in that split second.
And the tragedy is that he will literally never know. He poses these questions at the end of his account. Who was the man screaming? Was he actually losing a limb? Or was the scream a tactical lure designed by predators to draw people out into the dark to rob them? Was the rock hitting the house a deliberate message? Or just his heightened paranoia turning a falling branch into an attack?
And this touches on the permanent psychological toll these encounters extract. None of these victims ever discovered their aggressor's true endgame.
Never.
The teen never learned who was waiting in the red car. The grad student never knew what the latex gloves were actually for. The European student never found the source of the scream. Because the brain never receives the closure of a resolved narrative, it refuses to fully stand down. It basically keeps the internal alarm system permanently armed. Hypervigilance and paranoia become the new neurological baseline.
Which brings us to the core takeaway of this deep dive. Whether you are stretching your legs at a desolate rest stop at 2 a.m., traversing an intersection you cross every single day of your life, or simply walking down a quiet street toward your front door, your intuition is your most sophisticated survival mechanism.
It really is.
When your gut signals that the normalcy has shattered, You have to listen to it without embarrassment or hesitation.
Yeah.
Holding onto your razor, both literally, like our teenager in the bathroom, and metaphorically.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. Visualize the spaces you navigate every single day completely on autopilot.
Yeah.
The lobby of your apartment building, the stairwell at your office, the parking garage at your local grocery store. If a threat were to materialize in that exact space right now, do you know precisely where your nearest exit or safe haven is? Or has the comfort of your daily routine completely blinded you to your surroundings?